Good evening, Cape Town. Good evening, Cape Flats, and the rest of South Africa and the world. Thank you for joining us tonight. We normally have Byron with us. Byron don't feel too well tonight. Please pray for him. Think of him during this time. He's going through, some changes and not feeling too healthy. So think about Byron and pray for him. Tonight we're going to talk to two gentlemen from KZN. We just want to follow up what's currently happening, the situation in KwaZulu Natal, and I'll share with you guys later on afterwards why we have interviewed the gentleman tonight. And then also I just want to let you know later on this week we will be talking about the taxi violence in Cape Town, which is out of hand. I will be talking to taxi owners and taxi bosses. So please stay tuned for that as well. It will probably happen Saturday. But tonight we're going to talk about KZN and what's happening and the effect it has on our people. With me in the studio, I have Pastor Conway and Bishop Denver Naidoo. Chetty. Hope you guys are well. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you, Stanley. Good
Hi,
evening,
Stanley.
everybody.
How are you doing?
Okay. Pastor Conway, let's start with you. Just give us a bit of a background about yourself. Who is Pastor Conway and from where is he?
Well, from what I understand from Stanley, you guys think that KZN, there's only a place called Durban. So I'm not from Durban. I'm about 3 hours away from Durban. We're in a little town called Ladysmith. So for me, I've been in full-time ministry for the last 23 years, and just been working with the community. We've traveled quite a bit, been to India about 12 times, and just worked with the communities there. Go to the areas where there aren't there aren't many churches around. There's not much infrastructure. So really work in the rural areas, the places that no one goes to. So that's what we've done. We've been to Nigeria as well various times, also working with the communities and developing, helping on the social level, economic level, just helping communities. And in Ladysmith, we've had a school. We believe that education and just helping give the rural areas, bringing children from the rural areas, just bringing them in, assisting them with private style education, but just at a cost factor that's affordable for the masses. So that's what we've done. And then Stanley knows this year I've been chatting with him. Just felt that it was time for me to just move into some other things. So I'm no longer involved in a church, but just decided to step out. And who knew all of this was going to be happening? Because these are some of the issues that I just felt in my heart for some time that I wanted to address as an individual.
Pastor, thank you so much. We will talk about the projects that we're working on later on. Denver, just tell us about Denver. And I've met Denver on Cape Flats Stories, and we've been chatting for quite a while. He's very much in love with Cape Town, the Cape Flats. He's very much one of us. So Denver, just maybe introduce yourself to the people.
Good evening, people. I'm Denver from Cape Town, but my heart is in Cape Town. I love Durban, but I say I'm from Cape Town. It's like God took all the good things and pushed it into that corner. We've traveled the world, and there's nothing like Cape Town. Durban is my hometown. I'm from Chatsworth, now residing in Melbourne. We are a small family, and we have our own wedding decor business. We do our fair share of community work, and I'm just a humble guy with a good heart for the community. I'm a happy husband. Wife is Terusha. I have 2 kids. That's me.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for sharing, Denver.
Thanks, Denver.
Awesome. Yes, I just want to say this. When you guys one morning you guys woke up and the whole place were upside down. You didn't expect it when you went to sleep the previous night. Everything was still 100% okay. But that one morning you woke up and everything was upside down. I mean, Pastor Conway, from your side, what went through your mind? I mean, you come from the ministry. I would have assumed it's the coming, God is coming because the things happening around you. So what? How do you feel? How did it affect you the next day after you've heard these things? And I know some of the shops were closed and some of the business were also closed.
Um, I don't know, Stanley. It's all still very hard to take in. It's all still very difficult to make out what we're feeling, what we're going through. It's like, I think most of the people that are watching, most of the people that will watch, and most of South Africa, our heart is for this country. It's very easy for us to all just jump and just get out of here. So it's heartbreaking. I think when it was happening, apart from being alarmed and wondering what in the world is going to happen to you as a person, it's just alarming. There's so many thoughts that go through your head. And it's very hard to know what you're thinking that moment, except it's all kinds of things. I think it's a whole host of emotions that hit you all at once, concern, worry, fear, alarm. Uh, is this the end of the country? How long, how much longer? And then part of you tries to be optimistic and think, maybe by the end of the day, they'll have it under control. Once the police step in, and then one day becomes two, becomes three. And before you know, it's a whole week of stuff that's happened. And they haven't addressed anything. And as we know, as everyone knows, with the president showing up and giving us those kind of indications of the army and all of that, but nothing happened. I think even this week where we are, few things, we've seen a few things, but I still don't know that the military presence is out and about yet. We saw them on the highway from the videos that we saw, but yeah, just alarm, just worry, just concern, just for us who I think we okay in terms of finance and taking care of our lives on a day-to-day basis. And if we feeling that, what are the people who are out there who can't fend for themselves? What are they feeling? Because we have to really consider that, yes, people are just getting excited and talking, but it's not every single person that has been out there looting. There are some people in those communities that didn't join the looting, and we saw them out in the streets cleaning up and getting involved. So, if we feel that kind of desperation, we're not the only ones. So yes, to summarize, I'm not entirely sure yet what I feel.
Okay, and then it's still, but there's probably been a build up to this also because this has been going on for quite a while, and then just all of a sudden, it hits KZN hard. Denver, when you woke up, I mean, you are a businessman. What went through your head? I mean, you are the provider. Waking up and not knowing what's going to happen next.
Well, look, prior to the incident that happened last week, we were already hit from last year with the COVID issue and having to reduce the numbers in our functions. Then came 2 weeks complete lockdown for us, and we were completely out of an income. The looting, that was just a devastating add-on. But yes, there were underlying issues that contributed to this. And it was just taken as a trump card to do what was done. There was no reason to do it. Actually, it had nothing to do with politics. It was just a free for all. What we saw on the news, what we saw on our local WhatsApp group chats, it was devastating to know that a city as beautiful as Durban has become this. We just didn't see it coming. We didn't. And the community that I'm in stood up. We rallied with each other, and we still here. We took a drive last week through the city and a little on the outskirts. It was only what you see on TV. a complete war zone. Um,
Mm.
it, it it was just sad, just sad, just sad.
And I do think that like Pastor Conway said, it wasn't necessary in itself for people. When you're hungry, you're obviously gonna go fetch food. You're not gonna burn down buildings. You're not gonna burn down trucks. You destroyed a whole city.
Mhm.
In a matter of a few days. And
Yeah,
I just went through to the economic impact. 50 billion rand in counting.
yeah,
It's money that has to come out somewhere. It's money that has to to be paid into people's account to fix these businesses. So something that I read actually, this gentleman had his own petrol station, and for many years he's looked after this specific community, being part of the community, giving to that community. And that same community was the community that he looked after that came and burned down his one petrol station. I think the one is beyond repairs. So it's things like that, that actually questions yourself. You actually ask yourself, is it still worth it to be in South Africa? Is it still worth it to be here? You've given so much to your community, and I mean, the two of you are very much active in the community long before what's happened. And how do you guys feel? Do you guys still see it fit to continue? Because a lot of people I know of guys that are selling up in KZN, and they're looking at going overseas, and some of them are actually coming down to Cape Town. They just had enough of what's currently happening. So I don't know, how do you guys feel about that?
well,
I think
okay,
go for
carry
it,
on,
Jennifer.
Conway.
I think Stan, when you said 20 billion, we are not people who are dealing with billions of rands. There are a few people out here in our country that are dealing with that kind of money. But the pictures, the pictures tell us so much. So as we look at Johannesburg and as we look at KZN, and we see what 20 billion rand is, and it's alarming to see that 20 billion rand is not just a small amount of cash. Um, and then we think 500 billion that was just taken. And it just makes you wonder, how does because how did 20 billion rand just like that in a matter of days just get destroyed? And here's 500 billion rand that went missing. So it just also makes you one think, how much that's a lot of money to have just disappeared just like that. And obviously we know it didn't just disappear. So where's the accountability? Where's when the questions are asked, where did it go? How come there are no answers for that? But coming to your question about, is it still worth it to build? And I think for me, if how many of them, if we go by what we hear in the media, and we go by what we see on social media and what people are saying, how many of these people have actually met Duduzane Zuma or Duduzile Zuma? How many of them have actually met whoever else is involved in stirring this whole thing up? So is it worth it? So people they didn't meet can activate them based on exploiting their fear, exploiting where they are, Um, but for us who are hands-on with the community, we touching the people, we reaching out to the people, we know them, we working with the folks. So is it worth it? Yes, it is worth it. But we got to find not just find, but we got to work with the fears. We got to find solutions to the things that people are afraid of, because trust can be built. So yeah, I think when you talk about helping, it's always worth helping. I'm still enthusiastic about that.
Awesome. And just to come back to you, I think that is something that we need to address ASAP. It's to build a trust, because people fear, they tend to do anything to protect themselves, and in this case we can see people use fear to manipulate others. And we need to, and the same thing that happening in KZN net areas is also happening on the Cape Flats. People still have that fear, and because of that fear they do things that they're not rationally thinking about. So i
Yeah.
i do agree with you there. And then, well, on your side, what is your view on this?
Look, wherever you go, you're always going to get crime. It's just that you're going to find it on different levels. Um, I wouldn't pack up and go. This is Durban. This is our city, and if it's our city, we gotta be guardians of it, irrespective of black, white, Indian, colored, anything. Thing is, like Conway said, you gotta touch base with the people. You gotta know who they are, and you can't write them off, just as God didn't write us off. We all did wrong. I was helping the wife wash up the dishes today, and I I I got a scripture that was said in my mind. It said, "Those who have not sinned cast the first stone." And yes, they did wrong, but we also did wrong. Somewhere in our lives we did wrong, and it's not for us to judge. As human as we are, we would, but it's not justified by us to do it. But we got to build from the bottom up. As much as our city is in ashes, and our shopping centers are no more. It's going to take time to build, and it's going to take the community to rebuild. So I would say to the people of KZN that there is no need to go. You built a future here. Yes, destruction has come, but destruction has come for you to grow even more from the bottom up. There's a lot of propaganda going around, and saying that it's all politically motivated and stuff. We don't know. I don't know. You don't know. Nobody knows. But it's just that when you see one doing it, the other follows, and the other follows, and the other follows, and it becomes what it was, with no other intention, only because that person started it. So they all go in and get it done. I would say just stay and rebuild. As tough as it is, there were people, passing around the comments. Oh, we used to feed them, and we used to do charity, and we're not going to go there anymore. But in your heart, down the line, you would go back and support and do charity work in that places there, because that's who we are. We are humans with emotions of anger for a period of time, and we allow that healing process, and we go back to being the loving people that we are.
And I love what you're saying. We are human, irrespective of what has been said and done. And I think a lot of people are maybe feeling that anger now, and sometimes what happens is that anger gets onto media, and it actually goes all over, and people will see people, certain races as with anger issues, but it's not that. It's because people are angry for now, and we are human. The human side is allowed to come out and play. But I think in a few months from now onwards, we're going to look back and say, but you know what, we went through this and we got through this, and that is what I want to talk about next. Is, gentlemen, I've seen a lot of people standing together cleaning up. I've seen a lot of people, even people from Cape Town, all over South Africa, coming to your area. I think that is the most beautiful thing, is everybody standing together, helping each and every household. I think that is what makes this South Africa. It shows the human side of it. I don't know if you. I know, Denver, you have been around. But I saw you with the broom. I saw you with the spade, picking up. I think that is where it starts with me as an individual.
Yeah.
Going into the road, picking up that burnt tire, and throwing it away. I think there is still hope. And I don't know how you guys feel about this, but I think through this whole thing, humanity is showing its head through everything that is now has been happening in the last week. I don't know, Pastor Conway. I know you have also said a few things, and you are also very much know what's happening. There's a lot of businesses like I think it's Builders Warehouse or that is currently
Yeah,
also
yeah,
donating, and I think that is
yeah.
the beautiful thing. You maybe just want to tell us more about that.
Yeah, as just to pick up on something that Denver was saying there, um, I think people, being angry, there's a lot of justification in that. And, it's okay to be angry. There's nothing wrong with being angry. We just got to make sure that our anger doesn't turn to hate. Because, being angry with what people did, the responsibility is still on what people have done. But if I let that anger grow to hate, that responsibility now is no longer with what the people did. That responsibility now is something that sits on the inside of me. And 2 weeks from now, 2 months from now, 2 years from now, that hate is still going to be on the inside of me, still dictating to me, still telling me what I should and shouldn't do. And so when it comes to, and I've seen that people have said, don't support the informal settlements and don't support people, et cetera, et cetera. But we have to realize that, we've heard that statement, for evil to continue, it just needs good men to keep quiet. And, it's not only about just the informal settlements and the people who have looted. There are some innocent children in those places, and they still have a huge future and a long future ahead of them. And if you and I and all of us together are not going to try and make a difference and try and give them a hope in the future, then they are going to just follow in the same path. They're just going to see and believe that there is no hope because no one is showing me there's hope. And the only lessons I have are the people around me. How can they learn from people they don't see? How can they learn from people who are not exposing them to a better way? So it requires for us to go in and it requires for us to think and use our initiatives and think, how can we impact those communities? It's not like it's a small mission, it's a huge mission. It's going to require all of us. And if we've learned anything through the situation, it's not, yes, there's many lessons to learn, and it depends how you respond to the lesson. Well, one of the lessons could be, well, South Africa, that's it, it's just hopeless, let's get out of here. The other lesson could be, what's the point helping people? People will always stay the way they are. Yes, people will always stay the way they are, but as we know, we had Nelson Mandela Day on Sunday. He said no one's born to hate. Hate is not born, it's not something that's inside of you. Hate is something that has to be taught to you. So there are still some innocent young people in those places. And so it's up to us if we got to start somewhere, right? And if we start somewhere, we can impact those young people. So how do we change tomorrow? We change tomorrow with the youth and the young children that are there. And that's where we need to be focused on. Some people you can help and they're just never going to change. And I get that. And I'm not going to be one to say, hey, you can change everybody. You can't change everybody. They say you can take a horse to the water, but you can't make it drink. So I wouldn't get on that. But yes, I'm so blessed. I'm so encouraged by humanity when I look around and I see, every religion, every community, every color, businesses. I mean, Massmart, they were victims of some of the, the highest looting and all of that. But here we see them still sending things out. And I think that's the human element. But what has, when these kind of things happen, what is it? It's a common vision that's uniting people. It's a common cause. And I think that's what we lack from our government. We lack a common cause. We lack common initiatives. It requires communities standing up in times like this to put a common vision in front of people. And it wasn't difficult, was it? Because people want to. And that's something that I always think about, especially with the with a religious background, with religious organizations. Why do we always want to give people a vision? Why don't we ask them what their vision is? Because when you want to give someone a vision, you have to get them on fire. But if you ask them what their vision is, you're already pulling out the fire. And I think we've seen in South Africa right now the fire in people's heart for humanity. And I don't think we have people who are not in love with humanity. I don't think we have people who are not interested in making people better. And so we got to stop looking for the brownie points. We got to stop looking for the stripes on our shoulders. We got to stop looking to do it just because of what everybody else is going to say and post it and publish it just because we want the accolades and the commendation, you know. And so this time, that's what I think that's what I've got out of this whole thing, is that the suffering, people were united in coming together to provide that relief to people, and they were determined to do it. And we've seen it in, I'm so blessed, man. I'm just so taken back by seeing every color and every race and every religion, everyone just getting involved, and businesses, people that could say, you know what, our profits, look at our profit, our bottom line's been messed up. We're not going to put back into the community, but look at them. They are putting back into the community. So I think, what are we lacking? We're lacking a goal. We're lacking a common vision. So after this, we need to keep the vision. We need to keep a plan in front of people to say, you know what, if we're going to change South Africa, because as we see, all of us affect each other in some way or form or fashion. And I think we've all known that. And this last week and COVID has really shown us, man, you know, you can hide. You know, there's a guy, Viktor Frankl, and he talks about suffering, you know, and he talks about suffering and says, you can hide away for as long as you want in your house, but it will come. And so I think that's what we've realized, is we can't just hide away and keep quiet and say, it's not my thing. I'm not for the politics. I'm not for voting. And yes, I get it. Not all of us, definitely not me. I'm not a politician. And, you know, we don't want to be involved in all of these things. But when there's a common cause, like not everybody could get a 30-ton truck or 330-ton trucks or have access to all these things. But you know what? You have money in your bank account. You have an internet. You have an internet connection. All you had to do was transfer. But what did we need? We needed a common goal, and we all needed to band together. So yes, Stan, it's just wonderful to see.
And I love what you're saying. And I think it's that common goal we must find as South Africans. It's that common goal that we must see. Like you say, a lot of us are not politicians. We don't want to vote. But at the end of the day, the politics do play a big role. It is because of the reason why we're here. It is because of the reason, you know, nothing was really fixed in the last 27 years. And I just want to read some of the comments quickly. There was something that this lady said earlier on, another gentleman, Andy Mathies, 1.5 billion bullets stolen from a warehouse in KZN. Do you think there is something brewing? I think there was also a lot of guns also that was missing. There was gun shops also looted. I haven't read anything about guns that was found. I think there is also a concern at the moment. We don't have answers to that. And then there's one question that I just want to quickly share. I don't know if you can see, but Pastor Conway, the Born for this post apartheid was at the forefront of the looting. How do we justify that? Talking about, you suggest, of the young ones. Our government is to blame, driving strategic agendas to enslave and conquer economies for personal gain. Your thoughts, please. Yeah. So if you want, you can maybe answer him. But I think we need to find a common goal, and we need to start doing what is right. We have missed a lot of time. People are suffering. At the end of the day, you know what has happened in Durban is about to happen in every other province, and it's because of the same thing. It's because of gain. It's because of politics. And what you said so well, Pastor, was some people have now made this a political thing. They got involved to take a few photos. This is what we did and all that, but really nothing was really done. They've left KZN already, and you guys are still behind. You guys are still there, and you are the guys that's gonna go work in the communities. So I feel that we need to have a common purpose, and that purpose is to make sure we have a government that really cares about the people. And I don't know how you feel about this, Denver.
Well, it's sad because we have put them in power, but they have done nothing for us in this time. Since the day of the looting until today, the government has not sent out any fundings to KZN, but every person in KZN has a meal today. And I can say that fairly well. People have rallied from Johannesburg, Pretoria, Cape Town by the truckloads so that we could have meals free, not funded by the government at all. And this is what South Africa is about. It's about the people. It's about the unity of the people. And as we're speaking about, it's about humanity. And it's a diverse country that we're living in, but in that diversity, we are united. And that is what makes South Africa a lovely country to live in. You know, in Durban, trucks by the truckloads, food was just coming in. The politicians, Mr. President, he came in only to hold a broom, and that was it. Most of the people found that comical, and some of them found that rather not a good thing from him, because all he did was just take the fame of holding a broom with a person, doing a 30-second talk and handing the broom back. That's not a president. That's not leadership. That's not showing sympathy. Don't come when everything's done. Come when you are needed, not when it's safe for you to do so in your comfort zone with 300 guards around you. When the people were crying for the police to come and guard them. That's not on with our government. The people united, they stood with each other. And I'm happy about that.
Awesome. And you just touched on leadership. Pastor Conway, we spoke about leadership a couple of weeks back, myself and you, and we spoke about leadership. How some people are comfortable in their leadership position, while people out there are needing help. And I think what politics has also become like that. It's politicians. It's very difficult to get in contact with them. It's very difficult to talk to them about things that's really happening in the community. They do say, speak to your ward councillor, but I think that is the most difficult person to get hold of. I mean, it's easy for you to get hold of, a pastor. It's easy for you to get hold of a drug lord as what you can get hold of a politician, the lawmakers. And I just want to stop and speak to you, gentlemen. We had this conversation a couple of weeks back on leadership. What is leadership? Because at the end of the day, leadership is needed in times like this. Leadership is needed in communities, in times like this. And what is leadership? Like you said now, Denver, the president came with a broom in his studio. Many people came, just took a photo. This is what we do. This is what we're going to do. But nothing has happened a week later. It was all things that was said. It was all for social media, pictures for social media. It was all pictures, What is leadership? What do we lack? What do we need? Because we obviously have a lack of leadership in this country. That's why this country is looking like this. Pastor, you a man of God. You know what leadership entails. Just take us through that and share with us.
Let me answer that Jen's question as well, and I hope I remember what he was asking. I didn't get the first part. How do we justify the talking? The status of the almost government is to blame to the agendas. The government is to blame for the agendas. The government is to. We can't get away from that. But also at the same time, I'm not a person to always pay attention to things politically and really keep my head to the ground and ears open on those things. Sometimes it's just too draining and too annoying and too irritating. And, you got to protect your own self and your own emotions. So sometimes it's just better to stay away from those things and do what you know to do best. But in times like this, we got to look and we got to see. And so, we know about the Youth League, but apparently there's a RET. I don't even know what it stands for yet. It's still things I need to look into. But here's the thing. If our voice is absent in these situations, then it means the next person's voice is present. And so you know, when they exploiting these young people's fear, because they know where they are, they know why they're feeling what they're feeling, and that's what they're doing. They're exploiting their fear. And so through all these youth leagues and all these gatherings and everything, you know, as much as we don't like politics in terms of ANC, DA, and the rest of the crowd, at the end of the day, life is political, right? Family is political, your work environment is political, Facebook is political, your WhatsApp is political, everything is political at the end of the day. So it's just a matter of choosing your poison, you know. But what I think is that, you know, one person is not going to do it. If we're going to create something, we have to create a movement. We have to all be united in understanding, how do we change lives? And I think if we understand how we change lives and where and what's our return on investment and what's our ability to change that life, then maybe we know that our effort is not going to be wasted. I think people know right now, sending out food and stuff like that, it's not about they trying to change the political sphere of the country. I think they're trying to make sure that people survive. People survive a pandemic, and people survive the fact that they have no food in this time. Not only because they can't afford it, but because there's no food on the shelves as well. You know, so when you before you build, we understand, you know, the Bible tells us in Proverbs, before you build, you got to take the cost. You got to look at whether you can start and whether you can finish. And I think, you know, they say, you know, make your garment according to the cloth, the amount of cloth that you have, kind of thing. And I think if we take time and if we have people, influential people who have been there, you know, and Stanley, he also said, let's also not look to all the big and influential people. We can do something. And I guess, yes, I have to agree with that. We got to also realize that we have things that we can bring. You know, if we understand what does it take to change a life and how much can you change a life? And the reality is that some people just are never going to change no matter how much you try to help them. Some people, no matter how much you create employment, they've gotten too used to being lazy. They've gotten too used to it being given to them. You know, teach a man to fish or give him a fish. Some people just want the fish given to them rather than to be taught how to fish. But what we need to do is, those are not the majority of people. If people understand, it's a bit of two things here. It's a bit of understanding, what can I do to make someone understand you can actually learn to fish and get a fish for yourself. And then also being able to get and understand that atmosphere, that some people are not actually looking to learn how to fish. Some people are just looking for the fish. And that's what this youth league, and that's what all these politicians are exploiting. They're exploiting the majority. They're exploiting the masses who are not looking to learn how to fish. They're just looking for the fish. But the thing is, the people that are under them, the children, the youth, and all of that, they're just looking at this and they're saying, well, I guess it's easy then, isn't it? And what do most people want? What do most people want out of life? You know, a lot of people have ambitions. They aspire to be more than what they are. But a lot of the folks are just looking for a nice cell phone to take selfies and post it up on their WhatsApp profile. You know, they're not looking for more than that. And so if all you give them is a phone and nice clothes, that's all they're looking for. Now, I'm not saying that's what we need to do. I'm trying to say this is the mentality of a large number of people. But those children, those young people, they don't have that mentality yet. But if we don't get involved in it, they're going to look around in their society. They're going to look in their environment. They're going to look in their home situation. And that's what they're going to see. And that's what they're going to learn. But over time and over years, in allowing children to come out of the rural areas and be allowed into Model C schools and be allowed into private institutions, they've now started to mix and mingle with other people and realize, wait a minute, there's more to life than what I've seen. And I want this life that you have. I want running water. You know, I want a toilet that's on the inside of my house. I want a toilet that I can pull a little handle and the water takes the waste away. You know, I want that. I want hot water. I also want a shower in the morning. I don't want to have to always heat the pot on a fire outside. You know, so what is leadership? What do we know about leadership? Leadership is influence, right? So when we say, is there leadership in this country? Of course, leadership is two ways. Leadership is good leadership and bad leadership. And I think what we're witnessing is not a lack of leadership. What we're witnessing is bad leadership. We're witnessing evil leadership. We're witnessing people who understand they have influence, because leadership is influence. Influence is neither good or bad. It's how you use it. It's like money. It's neither good or bad. It's how you use it that determines whether the money is good or the money is bad. And so right now we just see the perfect example of bad leadership. I mean, 20 billion rand has caused such devastation across two provinces. What could that 500 billion rand have done? So, yeah, leadership, it's about influence.
And it's exactly what you said. What could that 500 billion rand have done for our people? I think, Pastor, just to come back, you said something very, very informative there. If I can use that word, once we start to mingle, once we start to go get out of our comfort zone, and we see the other side of the world, that's where we are inspired to dream. And I think what has happened over the last couple of years, our education system has failed us tremendously. Our young people, on the Cape Flats, I don't know how it's up with your side, but on the Cape Flats, we have youngsters dropping out of school at the age of 13, 14. I think I've mentioned this to you, Pastor Conway. And I think what happened is our youngsters don't dream anymore. That dream has died. And also, if you look at the circumstances, if you look at the environment, I mean, some of the schools, you can't even call it the school. And that is the places where these youngsters have to go. So I think, we had bad management the last couple of years, evil management, and that is what we need to fix. And we can only do that, by standing together and keeping these people accountable. I think that is one thing that is missing in our government is accountability, and that is something that we as citizens needs to look at, and we need to come together and say, but we're going to keep this government now accountable. 500 billion rand compared to 50 billion, 20 billion rand is nothing. There's quite a lot of money. So this money could have, if you look at the value of that money now from the looting, you could have given everyone a fridge. You could have given everybody food. You could have
Yeah,
given everybody something. This wasn't
exactly.
supposed to happen. You had 500 billion rand that you could have used to give people, but
I have
instead the
to
money went. Mm.
I have to correct you, Stanley. You could have given everybody 3 fridges.
You could have given, but that is the amount of money that we had that just disappeared. And then a few months later, you see one of the ministers driving the latest cars, Ferraris, Lamborghinis, and yet our people are starving. So I want to say government is also to blame for this, because of the lack of leadership skills. And I don't know how Denver feels about this.
Um, I have to agree with Pastor Conway. And to amplify on that, leadership, yes, he is right. There's two types. There's the bad type and the good type. And what our government fail is in the skills of the leadership. At a seminar that I attended, they said that the government is like a body where the head is the president and the remaining parts of the body are the ones following him. Now, if the head is not screwed on right and doesn't think properly, the whole body cannot function properly. And we have to hold somebody accountable for all of this, and it would be the person on top, which would be our president. Yes, we know that he cannot handle every facet, but he should know what's going on. We cannot. He cannot say, yes, we're going to disperse. During COVID, we were only hearing numbers. That was it. This amount of money is coming in. That amount of money is coming in. So where is it now? Where is it? But if you do ask them, they will blatantly tell you it's been used here and it's been used there without any proof. So likewise, going back to the Cape Flats, we have to be accountable for our kids, and you know we as parents need to train them up well. If you tell your child to do something, he would listen because he is parent. But a person learns from another by the actions of that person. not so much what is taught to the person. So if we as parents can be good role models in our community, then our children would grow up to saturate their characters of us, and we wouldn't be in a situation where we are now. If you go to a kindergarten school, children don't know color. They sit together, they eat together, they play together. It is only when they get home the parents teach them color. So we need to take that stigma out. We were not born in apartheid.
Mm.
Our forefathers were born in apartheid, and it should stay there.
That's right.
We are growing up in a democratic country, and we should leave those scars behind and move forward to build ourselves as a united country, which is what Mr. Mandela asked for, which is what he envisioned for this country. Now, if we're going to go back and scratch a healing scar, the blood's going to come out, which is what we are doing now, which is what our youth are doing now, to say that we are oppressed. We don't have this and we don't have that. No, it's what, as Mr. Conway said, you choose to want to have things free. It's not going to work like that. You have to build yourself up to get what you want. And in doing that, you can't go down burning schools and rioting and looting, and then come next week when your kids need to go to school, there is no school. Why? Because you're teaching them that. So we need to stop doing that. We need to stop feeding and hate into our kids. Because when we close our eyes, it's them that's going to be there. It's them that's going to rule the country. And what is going to be left of the country if we continue feeding hate? Nothing.
And I do agree with you. I think that spirit of looting, has been tolerated for too long. I think we need to make an example. Yes, you can protest. Protest is something different compared to looting. Protest is voicing, speaking about your unhappiness. But looting is vandalism, and that should be seen as vandalism, and people should be sentenced for, in the state of Texas. If if they find you loot, you go to prison. You go for a minimum of 6 months, and it depends on your case. And I think that is something so true what you said there, Denver. We need to realize we must teach our children at home. Yes, we need to get a new government, but I think that we need to teach our children at home. It starts at home when we sit around the table and we have, dinner, and we speak about things. We instill the good things in our children. No child was born, a racist. It's things that they've heard. It's things that they have been taught over the years, and we need to undo that. And how do we undo that? We undo that in our homes. I think a lot of us want to change the world, but it starts practically by changing the things in your homes. And I think that is what we need to look at. I can understand the frustrations of people. They're feeling frustrated because for many years, we have been oppressed. But we haven't been oppressed by race or by people. We've been oppressed by governments. And that is what we need to address, the governments. But we need to unite. For all these years, we felt, this time of the year, they always play the apartheid documentaries and the apartheid things because it's just before election time. And that is how they sort of indoctrinate your mind. This has happened over the years and can happen again. But we need to change that. We need to start talking these things into our family, into our children's life, that apartheid don't exist. What we need to do now is to sort of, believe in a system that can take us to the next level. And I think that is where we're stuck. Some of us are very much still stuck in the past. We don't realize, like I said, um, the incident that happened in Durban, KZN. it's supposed to be a lesson to us. If we unite, we can fix this country. And that is just maybe what I want to focus on. How do we get people to unite? How do we get the people to stand together? You've got people watching from all over in this, you know, in this country. Where do we start? I mean, the churches, and I always say this: the churches are so divided. The churches are so busy with their own programs, and so are the other religious institutions. But how do we start by uniting? I think it's time for us to unite now. And it's time for us to stand together and fix whatever there is to fix in this country. So I don't know, maybe Pastor, maybe you just want to say about it. How do we start to unite? Where do we start?
Um, it's not an easy one to answer, but our religious organizations have a large part to play in this whole thing, and I think casting vision. It's two ways. It's two ways, and I think it takes two hands to clap, isn't it? And what we have to realize is that with organizations, they also have to understand that the people coming to these organizations, they're not only coming to fulfill that organization's vision. And I think to a large degree, these organizations are missing out on what people have on the inside of them. A lot of them are passionate about things, and and I don't want to pick on anything personal and particular, but sometimes people leave organizations and do better, and that doesn't make sense. So I just think when organizations understand that they have a vision, and there's things that they want to achieve. But if you have 100 people attending your church or your mosque or your temple or whatever it may be, you don't need all 100 of them to fulfill that vision. So what do the rest do? You know why people are bored? People are not bored because they're not interested, they're disinterested. People are bored because you're not striking the nerve, you're not hitting the nerve where they feel it. And the only reason why you're not hitting the nerve where they feel it is because we're only asking for a corporate vision to be achieved. So I think, and I have to, just justify this, and I'm not discrediting a corporate vision. A corporate vision is very important, but there are a lot of individuals which religious leader instructed the folks to get the trucks going? How did they know to do that? Because there's something on the inside of a person. People are smart. People have passions. So I think it's about, I think this is what people are passionate. It just needs some people to, everything like a business, everyone can't be the CEO. It needs a CEO to create the model for the business, and then it needs people that are passionate toward that goal, and they move. And I think that's what we're lacking. We're not lacking passionate people. We're lacking common goals. We're lacking people who have the ability to set out a goal, set it out and explain it in such a way that people realize, wait a minute, I'm passionate about that very thing. And if there's one thing that we can realize, and there's one thing we can be encouraged about in South Africa, is that we have some very, very passionate folk. So I don't think it's a matter of making people passionate. I think it's a matter of making people understand that you actually have these passions, and I'm doing this is what I'm doing. I'm going to do education in these areas. Yes, I have a passion for that. Let me join you. I'm going to do a feeding scheme. Yes, I have a passion for that. Let me join you. I'm going to create small businesses in these areas. Yeah, I have a passion for that. Let me join you. So I think it requires, and we have this media. And the amazing thing is that people shared and I'm just observation, okay? Just observation. It's not judging anything. It's just that people shared the negative images more than they shared the trucks going out. That did more around. So, let's share the good. we have we have social media, and I think if we connect to each other, and Facebook and this algorithm thing is very suspicious sometimes. Okay, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist kind of guy, but what has Facebook done to us? Are we not going to move because we didn't get 500 likes?
Mm.
When you have a passion on the inside of you, you can't wait until. How can you, sometimes let's talk about it. When you have a passion, even you yourself question the things you feel on the inside of you. Even you yourself question whether I really have what it takes to do it. And so you put it out there on Facebook trying to get a feeler for it. How can people on the outside of you how can people on the outside be passionate about something on the inside of you that you yourself are even questioning, that you yourself are having to work through, and you yourself are having to understand? And so what we do is we try and get all the likes first before we feel we're going to action it, because we have the support of people. But if we get going and we get moving, I just think that's when we will get the support behind us.
And I do agree with you, Pastor. Many times we're waiting for social media to motivate us. You should wake up in the mornings motivated. And just to come back with what you said there, like myself and you, we have projects going, that can benefit KZN in Cape Flats. And I think that is how we collaborate. We work together, and that is how we tap into this, because now we're connecting different provinces together. We're connecting different cultures together as well. And that is what we need to realize, is that we need each other, irrespective if we are white, colored, Indian, black, whatever color. We need each other to make this a better country. I think we have long been told, for too many years, we've been told that we shouldn't mix because of what happened many years ago. But we need to stop that, and we need to find each other. I think, Pastor, like me and you met on a very simple way. We met, and up till this day, we are still connecting. We're still friends. We're still chatting. And I think the more we connect, the more we see. But there's a lot of similarity in us, and that is how things are out there. We are so in this bubble that we think everybody else is different to us. In fact, we're all the same, and that is what we need to accept.
Let me just quickly say this, Stanley. Sorry. I grew up in the Indian area, right? Till 17, 18. And then a few years later after that, I got married. And after a few years of being married, we had our first child. And so we moved to an area in Ladysmith, the colored area. And we stayed in the colored area for about 11 years. And then after that, after 11 years, a few years after that, then we moved back to the Indian area, and we've been here since then. And the organization that I was involved in, the management and the founders were white. And so for 23 years, I worked with white people, spent 11 years in a colored community. And for the last 23 years, our main thrust has been into the Black rural communities. And the one thing I can tell you, some of my best friends are across all race groups. And growing up, I only had mainly Indian friends with one or two colored friends coming along. And I can tell you, everything that they tell us about other race groups is an absolute lie. And there's bad apples in every race group. And there's bad apples in every area. And we disservice ourselves by keeping ourselves away from other people. The thing is, we've heard that statement, you can only do, I've spoken so much tonight, I can't get it, but you'll always do what you've always done, kind of thing. You'll always get what you always got. I'll post it on Facebook, okay? But the thing is, if we stick with the same kind of thinking, how are we going to be different? How are we going to be different? How am I going to overcome my communities, where my community has been weak? And how will I overcome that if I only stay with the Indian community? Then I'm not going to overcome those things that they face for years and years and years and years. It's when we mix with each other and we iron sharpens iron kind of thing, that's where we get better.
Right.
And I do agree with you. Denver, do you just want to continue on that as well?
Yes. So we have this wall around us. It's called pride. We need to break that down in order for us to step out of that and meet the people. There's so many other people out there. as what Conway and you have iterated, that share the same that share the same goals, that share the same vision. We wouldn't know that until we go out there. And by mingling with the people and letting the people know what you do, you will be surprised as to how many other people share that same vision. And in more people having their vision, it's easy to get things done. It's easy to cater for a community. It's easy for that many people to change a community to see the better that they are as to what they are doing now. You know, if you just stay in your home and just pass the comments to yourself or be a keyboard warrior, nothing's going to happen. You need to get out of your comfort zone and be with the people to know the plight that they're going through, come down to their level, then you can relate to that person. Because if you're up on your high horse with your suit and tie and you're trying to talk to a person or even feel how they're feeling, they're not going to give you time of day because already they have that barrier to say, hey, you know what, I'm going through my own struggles. Here you come with your suit and tie. I can't relate to you. So in coming down to a person's level, there's better communication to that people. There's better communication to that community. And by rallying around with other people to do that same cause would be such a great and easy task. Yes, what we see in media is not all true and not all fake. We should eat the meat and throw the bones, as what I hear. Take what you know is the truth and just throw out what is fake. And don't spread fake news. You know what? Why do you want to make the people afraid? Why do you want to install fear in the people? It's only when you install fear in the people, it brings up the monster in them, and things like this happen. And we don't want that to happen. We want a community to live in peace. Not to the guys in the settlement, to where my workers live in that area down there. They say, if you stay in the bad area, you got to sleep with one eye open because you don't know who's going to be coming around. So we as a community need to know how to relate to our community. With more people, it can be done, and it will be done. So, it's hard so to just stay at home and say, I want to change the world and I want to change the community, but you're doing nothing about it. There's that saying that goes, be the change you want to see in the world. It starts with you. It starts with me. I should change myself. It's very difficult to change a person out there, but you need to learn how to adapt to him in order for him to see himself that what he's doing is wrong, so he will change on his own. You can't change a person. So yeah, it's a matter of how you go and relate to the people, that they will be able to relate to you, and they will see themselves, hey, what we're doing is wrong. We need to stop this, not only for us, but our future generation. And in them changing themselves, the whole chain of further reactions will slowly but surely become positive.
And I agree with you, gentlemen. Thank you so much. Unfortunately, we've come to the end of our podcast. But thank you so much, Pastor Conway. Thank you so much, Denver. You are right. We need to see how we can, get to the level of our people. Because if we are here and our people at the bottom, there won't be something, we won't be able to relate, and that way we will lose we will lose their respect for us. So we need to go out, and like the Bible say, we need to make disciples of those people as well. I just want to leave you guys. Maybe you just want to say something, Pastor Conway, just encouraging the people, a minute or so, and yourself, Denver, and then we can call it a night.
Yeah, I just saw a comment there, and I think this is very important to understand. Yes, the church is not a building. The church is the people. And then the other thing is that pastors must get out there. That's the one you put up there. Let's understand something very quickly. We're talking about leadership. We're talking about what the politicians are doing. So it's not just only about the pastors getting out there. You see, it and as you, if you didn't hear at the beginning, I've stepped out of being behind the pulpit to make a difference in the community. Now that doesn't mean anything against the other pastors, but it requires each of us to take our place, to find out what we are passionate about. And I think that's what's important. The important thing is to find, what are you passionate about? And if you are in a church, and if you are in a religious organization somewhere, to take it to your leader, your spiritual leader, and to be able to say, this is what I'm passionate about. I'd like to start this. And so it's not about, you see, we mustn't duplicate that mentality that we need heroes and we need people to approve our plan. And God puts it in your heart. You have a passion for it. You have a dream. You have a burning desire about it. You need to take it and say, this is what I'm passionate about, and this is what I want to do, and this is where I want to make a difference. And you go out and you make that difference. That's what I leave in closing.
Denver, we're gonna allow you to just say your words, and then we can say goodbye to our viewers.
Yes. Okay. So politics in religious sectors, that's jam biscuits for another day. But I respect all religion. I really do. I'll talk about my religion, Christian. So when you pass a person every day and you ask him, how are you? He's on the street. He's in the corner. And you see him and you say, how are you? And he says, ha, 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 ha. And you tell him, don't worry. God loves you. Have hope. And you walk away. Nothing's gone in his head. Nothing's gone. There is nothing that you have left with him. But the one day that you give him a slice of bread from your lunch, or even a 2 rand is like nothing today. You give him a 2 rand and you tell him, don't worry, there is hope. You are being hope in a hopeless land. And that is what people are looking for. They're looking for hope. And the only way a person can see hope is when you put something in their hand. That is what they're looking for, to believe that there is a God that is listening to their prayers. Remember, everybody, even a looter, has a heart and is looking for that one time that he can have hope and know that God is listening to him. Like I said before, he who has not sinned cast the first stone. We all have sinned. And this thing about amazing grace, if God gave us a second chance, we can give our community a second chance as well. We need to be hope in a hopeless land. Much love to everybody in Cape Town. I love you guys. To the Olkers family, Joshua von Meyer, Cheryl White, I can go on, KB Rapper, Youngster, everybody, Stanley, to the rest of everybody in Cape Town. We send our love from KZN.
Brothers, thank you so much for joining me tonight. It was amazing. And we should do this often, because we're breaking boundaries, we're breaking barriers, because this way we communicate and we tell the world actually through conversations like this. Cape Town is not that, South Africa is not that big. It's a small community of people that just need to get together, So thank you so much, and I'll keep in touch with you guys. That was Pastor Conway and Denver from KZN and Naidoo Smith. They've joined us tonight. And please, if you can share this live video, share it. There is hope. It's men and women. The people that lives in those areas that were looted are people just like me and you. It's people, you can listen to the two brothers that they are still very much hopeful that things will change, things will get better. and they're very much positive about the future of KZN in those areas, and that things will become better and that people will unite. So thank you very much for listening to us. Thank you very much for joining us, and please do share this live. And guys, don't forget, we will talk about the taxi violence this coming week. I will have the people in the studio as well. Have an amazing, amazing Monday. Thank you. Cheers.